Hey guys, Chris here. So I posted a couple videos on this machine um, a while back, um, from the very beginning when I got it, and I just put one up a couple weeks ago. And those of you that have been paying attention, you can obviously see I've been having not the greatest experience with this machine. I've had a couple issues, over the course of owning it, which hasn't been very long. Um, and I've had several components of this machine replaced under warranty, including all of the axes and the most recent cross members. And so, although there's been some issues, it's really good that Avid has been paying attention and standing by their product, and I really appreciate that quite a bit. And they, have listened pretty closely to the feedback that I've given them about certain things. Um, they now machine the cross members on these, which is very, very good thing, because the trueness of the y-axis is dependent upon the squareness of the cross members, and so that's good. I'm really glad and that they've been doing that now. And the last thing that I pointed out to them was to start machining these gussets in an oval shape so that there's room for the head to go, because these ones here, they're not machined like that. You back the screw out, there's nowhere for it to go, so that makes it very difficult to do the assembly. So that's a simple feature change there that will make installation a lot simpler for a lot of guys, and they have taken note of that as well, which is really good. So anyway, any optimizations that I come across that can help out, anybody who's going to be getting these machines in the future, I'll be sharing that with Avid and just trying to help make the world a better place, I guess, and so that anybody getting into one of these doesn't run into issues like I did. But again, I do really appreciate Avid standing by their product the way they have, and listening to the criticism that has come out by not just me, several others as well. So what I got going here is, obviously what I do with this machine primarily is cut aluminum. It's basically got into this machine as an alternate to a full-blown milling machine to do basic aluminum machining. I had been using a smaller machine that was heavily modified, and that had been used for doing aluminum as well, and it did a great job. And I was just mainly looking for something that had a bigger workspace and could handle more heavier cuts and things like that. But I was surprised that it kind of struggled quite a bit with even smaller jobs, seemingly. So the machine itself is, at first glance, is built extremely well. It is. You've got these real thick aluminum uprights, on both sides. And then you've got your two y-axes, which are supported by all the cross members. So you've got a nice, stable, rigid structure there. You've got the x-axis, which is backed by this huge extrusion here, all the way across the back of the x-axis. So it's pretty solid, pretty beefy. And I believe that the bottleneck for it, and what makes it a struggle with simple jobs, is not any of those parts of the machine. I believe it is the Z-axis, which is not reinforced at all. And neither is this front bracket here. The bracket actually, this whole extrusion here, attaches up top. And this whole part is basically just hanging there. You know, it's not attached to anything. It just kind of rides along. It's just more mounting area for your spindles. So I believe what's going on is this whole thing is able to flex, especially when you're down on your work. It's extended down farther, and it can flex a little. I've done a video in the past showing the Z-axis flexing and where it does, and it looks like it's mostly right in here. And the fact that there's no reinforcements from behind the Z-axis, this whole thing is like a giant lever. And I think that is probably where the lack of rigidity and struggle that the machine has comes from. Because again, you just look at the way the rest of it's built and reinforced, it's way stronger. I mean, look at the size of this extrusion here that's backing this X-axis, and you've got nothing on this one. So what I'm attempting to do here is I've got these brackets here that I've made to reinforce both the bracket up front here and basically the bracket for mounting the spindle mounts as well. And then there's the sub plate that goes behind the Z-axis. So that's going to go in between this extrusion and the Z-axis and reinforce it all the way up to the top here with 1 inch thick solid aluminum there. And it'll span the full width of that extrusion. But then once that's mounted, the Z-axis mounts to that, then this plate here, that's what this plate is. This plate will actually bolt to this extrusion here. This piece will be gone. The spindle mount will be attached to this. So I've got one spindle mount attached, and then the other spindle mount will be going above it. So I'll have 2 mounts holding the spindle instead of just the one. And then I've got different holes to locate that higher or lower. And then just basically M8 screws and T-nuts that are going to be going in the slots here and reinforcing this whole thing so that, you know, from top to bottom, so that this whole thing will be much more rigid like this, and also adds a lot more mass to help alleviate chatter, deflection, things like that, hopefully, and get it to be more like a mill. I get it, it's a router, but I like to call it a gantry style mill more than a router, just because it's a very capable router, and I use it mostly for metal, and you mill metal, not necessarily call it a router. There's a big debate about whether they're routers or milling machines. I just call it gantry style mill. And anyway, so that's my hope, is to get these installed and hopefully take care of the weakness that this machine has had, basically the bottleneck, which is, I strongly believe it's all up in here and the way this part is designed. And then another tip for Avid, if this does work, build reinforcement brackets for the back of the Z and maybe for the front, like that, and that might really increase the capability of these machines in the future. So anyway, I'll get another video when this is all done and a follow-up on that. Okay, all right, take care, guys.